and subscribe.
I found an abandoned Nissan in the Alaska bush. What happened afterward haunts me to this day. Back in my 20s, I was what you might call an adventure girl. About 10 years ago, give or take, something happened that changed that. I moved to the city, got a boring job and a boring apartment, and became decidedly averse to the outdoors. I haven't really told anyone about it in all that time, except for my now wife, because, well, for one, they'd think I'm crazy. And for two, I don't want to think about it. I'm finally putting it here though, because others deserve to hear it. After all, they probably saved my life. At the time, I had just graduated college and moved from Texas to Alaska out of a desire for, unsurprisingly, adventure. I had a job doing things I liked. It paid well and gave me enough vacation days to get out and do something truly adventurous every once in a while. One thing I had on my bucket list since moving north was driving the Dalton Highway. For the unfamiliar, that's a so-called highway stretching from Fairbanks to Prudhoe Bay on the Arctic Ocean. It's a 500-mile, 11-hour drive in the summer, but due to work constraints, I wasn't able to make the trip until early autumn. By early autumn, the snow had started, but the plows were still able to keep the highway relatively clear. I was driving a 1995 Toyota Land Cruiser, kitted out for expeditions. That vehicle was everything to me. Besides that, I was an adventure girl. I was prepared. I had camping gear, emergency gear, a satellite phone, plenty of food and water, enough jerry cans for the trip there and back, and Sam Colt's greatest invention in the center console, just in case. For the unfamiliar, that's the 1911. That gun was everything to me. I planned to make the trip in 2 days, sleeping in the back of the Land Cruiser halfway. I had enough blankets to keep warm and a nice, comfy space in the back where I could stretch out. With the need to drive slower due to snow, my desire to enjoy the scenery and the early autumn sunsets, it seemed like the best plan. That day started off well, and the driving conditions were fine. By the time things took a turn, it had been dark for about an hour, and I was getting into the foothills of the Brooks Range. The scenery was breathtaking, but the terrain was something I preferred not to navigate in the dark. Just as I was about to pull over for the night, caution flashers appeared up ahead. A hard rule for any Alaskan is that stopping for someone in distress on a remote road like that is non-negotiable, especially after the snow starts. If they aren't prepared for an emergency, stepping in could mean saving a life. I pulled over next to a Nissan SUV, not as well equipped as mine, but still decent. By the jack under one axle and the wheel sitting next to the car, it was clear they had blown a tire. What I didn't see were the people. I got out of the Land Cruiser, my boots crunching into the snow, and looked around. The sparse evergreens that dotted the landscape created dark, impenetrable patches against the snowy night. Calling out, I asked if they needed help, but the sound of my voice barely carried before the silence swallowed it. The only response was the faint clicking of the Nissan's flasher. Calling out again, I offered my tools, but there was no reply. The silence pressed in, unnatural and stifling. It wasn't unusual for snowy nights that far north to be quiet, but something about this quiet unsettled me. Creeped out, I hopped back into my car and grabbed my weapon, slipping it into the large front pocket of my jacket, just in case. There were bears up there. Approaching the Nissan, I spotted footprints in the snow. One set had been crouched near the removed tire, while another stood a few feet away by the rear of the SUV. The second set had then headed toward the tree line, stopping briefly before continuing into the woods. The first set later followed, the strides indicating a sudden shift from walking to running. Now I was really uneasy. Leaving felt like the best option, but this could be a life or death situation. And I had my firearm. It could handle a grizzly, probably. With that in mind, I followed the footprints into the woods. It was oppressively dark, but I had a high-quality Surefire flashlight. The silence seemed to deepen as soon as I stepped beyond the tree line, as sound does in snowy woods. Probably. The only reassurance I had that I wasn't deaf was the sound of my breath and my boots crunching in the snow. Calling out again, about 20 yards into the woods, I asked if everyone was okay. A woman's voice answered, fearful, desperate. She was nearby, calling for help. My pace quickened as I shone my light through the trees, searching. The voice called out again, even closer this time, still pleading for help. This is when I believe others saved my life. Something about that voice sent a chill down my spine, raising the hairs on the back of my neck. It sounded off, just slightly wrong. I froze, my light steady on the spot where the voice had come from. Cautiously, I asked for a name. The voice cried out again, impossibly close now. I hadn't heard any movement in the snow. That was enough. I swapped my flashlight to my left hand and pulled out the Colt with my right. Aiming both toward the source of the voice, I caught sight of something in the distance. A human-sized bundle lying in the snow. The ground around it was stained dark. My mind barely had time to process that it was a body before movement caught my eye. Something stood between me and the corpse. The thing had 2 arms and 2 legs, but its proportions were grotesquely wrong. Its limbs were too long, its frame too tall. Sparse, wiry hair clung to its head, and antlers sprouted from its skull. Its face was horrifyingly unnatural, and dark stains, blood, undoubtedly, covered its mouth. I fired 2 shots and ran. I don't know if I hit it. I don't know if it slowed down. I just ran, faster than I ever had, with snapping branches and crunching snow closing in behind me. My lungs burned, my heart threatened to explode. Once or twice, I nearly lost my footing in the snow, but I managed to stay upright. The sounds of pursuit grew, not just behind me now, but all around. There were more of them. Luck saved me that night. Luck that I had noticed the body. Luck that I ran just fast enough. Luck that none of them were faster or closer. Luck that the couple in the Nissan had drawn them away before I arrived, because I had planned to stop just ahead. If they hadn't been there, I would have been asleep in my car. I don't want to think about what would have happened then. Reaching my vehicle, thankfully left running, I leapt inside, slammed the door, locked it, and threw the car into reverse. Dark, lanky shapes emerged from the trees, illuminated by my headlights. At least half a dozen of them, all pale to the point of being nearly white, with varying sets of antlers and primitive-looking clothing. Reversing as fast as I dared, I put distance between myself and those things before turning around and speeding all the way back to Fairbanks. I didn't stop until I reached a well-lit hotel in the city. By the next day, I was back in Anchorage. I debated calling the state troopers. Someone would eventually find the Nissan, the bodies, my spent casings, my tire tracks. I might become a suspect, but reporting myself meant guaranteeing I'd be a suspect. I gambled that no one could tie me to the scene. Within a week, I packed my things, quit my job, abandoned my lease, and moved back to Texas. No police ever came knocking, so I suppose I made the right call. The nightmares still come though. Visions of those elongated creatures chasing me through the snow. I probably have PTSD, but I can't exactly talk to a therapist about it without sounding insane. I'm not an adventure girl anymore. I never go anywhere at night, and I stay in the city as much as possible. I didn't escape unscathed, but I escaped alive, which is more than can be said for the people in the Nissan. I was lucky.
Like and subscribe.